See, you can see it wrapping around there, I hope. Okay guys, I built a rocket stove hybrid. It's not really a rocket stove, it's close. The smoke's been pretty low. It's almost zero now. The wood was wet. I think that was part of the problem. It doesn't have a port in the back. It just wraps around into a stack that's on the side. And put some bricks in the back to funnel the air a little bit off to the right. I've tried 3 or 4 of these designs with different, you could almost say ports, or trying to make a port, and they all failed. They all had some major league smoke. This one, after a few minutes, smoke clears. And what's nice about this design is, it looks like hell now. I'll show it to you when it's all finished, or when it looks, it can be a bench for 3 people to sit around. You know, it's a nice warm bench for outside in the cold. You want to drink some beers or something. It's not a true rocket stove, but let me get closer so I show you the bench. You know, anything that smokes heavy I abandon right away. For some reason my stuff has to be almost no smoke. And let's see, I mean, for the bench, again, I've got to position these cement blocks better, but you could easily sit 3 people. Those thin cement blocks, too hot, already scalding, you couldn't sit on that, but you could sit on the thick cement blocks. So 2 people could easily sit there, 1 person in the back, and those blocks will turn out. So that I'm just threw anything on top just to make a, I'll show you how it, can I even touch this? These get so hot, these thin ones. See, you can see it wrapping around there, I hope. Little smoke, not bad. Just put a 6-foot chimney, dryer vent on top of your fire brick stack. Get it above where you're sitting. You won't get any smoke in the face. See it wrapping around the back. I'll break it down and show it to you. This is already super hot. I'm breaking the stove down so you can see how it's built. Half the chimney is off for a rocket stove. This really isn't a rocket stove, you call it a riser. Let me show you. Just 4 layers of fire brick. You just put these thin concrete blocks over, you just cap it off. If you put the concrete blocks out, you can make a nice bench for 3 people. And as you saw, the flame, well, I'm not sure the order I'm showing you this, but flame wraps around, and the opening there, opening into the riser, is 2 bricks. 2 bricks on their side. Not 1 brick, 2 bricks. Now, this is an attempt to create some sort of a port or a narrowing in the channel. The first time I burned it, these weren't in there, so the gases could completely wind all the way around the corner, and there was a good amount of smoke. I thought there was the last time I did it, there wasn't a huge difference. It still smoked a little bit in the test I showed you, even though it went smoke-free for a while. By putting these 2 in here, the first time I tried this, creates a narrower opening. I had much better results with no smoke. The good news about this stove is, if you build this and you mortar everything up, well, especially for the first month or so, if you whatever you're going to use as your bench, if you left these caps relatively loose, you could play with different configurations of kind of squeezing it off. You could try it with just nothing. You could put, you could put one in on the side like that. But a port isn't that useful unless it's the port is directly in front of the riser. That's how a rocket stove port works. It's a narrowing directly in front of the riser. This is not directly in front of the riser. But as I mentioned, the 2 bricks on the right there made a much better situation for no smoke than when it was all allowed to wrap around. So let me break more of it down and I'll show you a little bit later. You know I'm big on no smoke, guys, and if no smoke's your thing, I mean, you could build this general configuration and mortar up a high riser or chimney, and then you could just play with the configurations inside. Again, the flame wraps around the back there is a 2 brick opening. I don't know how much of that you can see. It's all glare for me. But even the amount of air you let in the front is a key factor for smoke. So there, let's just say this was my only height was, it was only 5 tall, and then I capped it across with the cement block. You let all that air in, that huge. I didn't try I didn't do any experiments where I regulated the air down or choked the air down to see if that had an effect on the smoke in this design. But I just ran it with this full square open. But you can do things like this, guys. Get 2 halves. This is your door, right? Get 2 halves, and here's your 2 fire bricks, and it's almost the same level. You'd have to build this up with some insulation. And remember, you lay your cement block across the top, and then that's half the amount of air, and that can make a difference. Too much air creates smoke. Too much air is air conditioning. So I didn't test every single permutation for you guys. I don't, I have other things I want to test, but if you build the basic configuration here, you could experiment here with loose bricks on letting less air through. All of a sudden the smoke could go down to nothing. You just have to experiment. You could put 2 bricks in the back. You could build different ports in the back by reaching in, even if everything else is mortared. As long as you could still get in there, you can continue to play around with it, so you can create, this thing will eventually, once you figure it out, will be no smoke. As it gets hotter, it gets less and less smoke. If there's nothing mortared here, that's a big factor. All this cold air seeps in. Just by me mortaring it, it might eliminate all smoke. So guys, I just think it's a nice little design for a bench for 3 people. And there's a lot you can do once you have the outer shell mortared. You can play around with the configurations internally to create no smoke or whatever is right for you in your backyard. Let me just show you and talk about this from the other side. Even that, guys, is really way too much air. A wood stove has 2 little holes the size of dimes or nickels. That's all a wood stove has. 2 little holes the size of dimes. So once everything gets super hot, to start the stove, the first pile of wood, I'd let it have a lot of air. It might smoke a little bit. But as everything gets super hot and if everything's mortared, you could eventually, take, put another fire brick in there. You could take block that up by 60 more %, just allowing 30 to 40% of what you see there through. And that could be, even that small amount could be the ideal amount of air for this stove to go smoke free. Too much air, again, is an air conditioner. Cold air creates smoke. And I burned this 6 or 7 different ways, but I can't do this all summer. I'm confident this works, so that's why I'm putting the video out, even though it's really not a true rocket stove. It's just a nice little bench stove with a rocket stove type riser that the riser, really helps the draft and the draw. A little more of the stove is removed, so you can see the basic configuration. 1, 2, 3 across. 1, 2, 3.5 down. And then this channel here is 1/2 brick, or 1 full brick sideways, 2 brick opening at the bottom, which is really like 2 halves. This, as you stack the riser up, it just creates a half. That's all you need for a riser. I wouldn't go smaller than that, but that, for this type of stove, that is plenty of space. And of course, as you build your riser, you would stagger, put over top of the cracks, and it just, very quickly and easily you can build up as high as you want. You probably could even consider just doing this in fire brick to just here to absorb the 1,000 degrees, and then go red brick. Let me find some pavers and see how that would, if that would be too tight, guys. I'll see if I can find some pavers, and we'll experiment with that. I'm not going to relight it. So mine was you have the base, and then 4 layers. On top of the 4th layer, not including the base, or on top of the 5th layer, is your cement block cap. Doesn't leave a lot of room for wood. I think if you wanted to go one more row up, which would be 5 plus base 6, it would allow a lot more room for wood. But you get into, is your firebox and your air opening too big for your riser? For your 2 brick. There's no reason to allow 3 or 4 brick opening into the riser, because this is all you have in the riser. There's no point in making that hole down there real big. I wouldn't go 1 brick, but this is all you have. So if the firebox becomes too big, I don't know. I think you could get away with 1 more row. So it would be 5 plus a base 6, which would allow a lot of room for wood to be loaded in. And once this riser got super hot, it's going to pull, draft, and suck like crazy. Now, in terms of what I was just talking about, the only downside is the firebox is just too big for the small chimney or riser. That smoke it'll back up, and smoke will start coming out the front a little bit. But again, you can, even if you make your firebox bigger, you can always restrict the air coming in with something like this. And if you don't, again, you're outside on this bench in January drinking some beers, and a little bit of smoke, it would only be a tiny bit. A few puffs here and there escape the door, big deal. That's for outdoor use, not a big deal. Okay, here's your basic configuration. And with this glare, I can't see a darn thing. Let's break down the riser. See how I did this. So you can take a look from this side first. Okay. Used a half here. Had to use a half here. Just put a half where this fire brick is so easy to cut. You get a real cheap wet saw. I removed the guard. You shouldn't ever remove the guard. And then wet saw is important for fire brick, because it's dangerous with a silica sand to breathe in without a wet saw. Okay, here's where I put my first cap on the riser. So that's a 2 brick. That's a 2 brick opening there. Fire starter didn't burn through. That's one of my tests. It probably went bad. Had to use a half there. You have to use a few halves, but then once you get your configuration going, no more halves as you go up and up and up and up. You don't ever have to use any more halves. So what's nice about this whole stove is, I don't know, there's like 4 or 5 or 6 cuts of fire brick. And that's all you need to do. You could really, if you're good with mortar, you could just chisel it in half. It would be real ragged, but it's only 6 cuts for the whole stove. Be ragged with a chisel, but you could shape your mortar and make up for it. There's one more configuration video for you so you guys can see. There's the wraparound 2 brick opening into the start of the riser. Riser starts Just one riser starts just one brick in, one full brick in from the front. If you had a ton of room in the back, you had a big slab or wherever, you know, you would probably be better to just add another full brick out, just so you could get longer pieces of wood in. That also makes your bench longer. You could get 4 people on the bench then. Oh, so I don't forget, you want to use these for the bench. These, I don't know, they're 16 by 8s, but they're not, might not be exactly 16 by 8 concrete block. Every Lowe's and Home Depot in the United States sell them. These are the ones with the holes, and you know, like a mad scientist, I tried to fill the holes with different materials for thermal, you know, holding heat, and most of the materials expanded at a different rate than the cement block. End up, well, I only cracked about 5 of them, but you could fill these holes. Like a lot of them I filled with mostly mud or cob, but it's better, guys, just to buy the solid concrete block at 16 by 8 without the holes. You can get this solid. That's what you want to use for your bench. These thin blocks here, they get to scalding temperatures in less than 7 or 8 minutes. You cannot sit on them. Concrete absorbs heat much faster than this fire brick. But there you go. Here's the bigger one. Here you can see the difference. This is the full concrete block without the holes. You could sit on this probably for an hour or so before it got too hot. And then you could always throw a blanket or something on if you wanted to continue to stay outside and sit on the bench. These, I'm using these for the test, but just no way. You would scald you, it would burn you inside of less than 10 minutes. This is what I would recommend. And it's always important to show the base of the stove. See how simple it is. Always looks like nothing from the base. So across in the front, this is where the door would be to load the wood. Just 2 bricks across. It's 1 plus 2 halves, 2 bricks across. Going down, 1, 2, 3.5. Going down. This is where your chimney is, your riser. 1, 2.5. The riser is here, and then your back is 1, 2, 3 across the back. And in terms of, you know, with fire brick, they're so symmetrical. 2 across is the same as 1 down. That, you know, here I have these 2 across. If you're making this, you don't have to have these 2 exactly as I have them. See, fire brick are so perfectly symmetrical. 2 across is the same as 2 down. So these, you know, don't worry about matching this exactly. You can lay them any which way as long as you have, you know, the configuration of 2 across. What was it? 3.5 down, 3 across, 2.5 down this way. Well, let me show you this. On top of the riser, you don't have to go up many fire bricks if you put a 6-inch chimney pipe on top. And you can make these. You just pour cement inside of like a pan for an oven pan, and put your 6-inch stovepipe with oil or spray Pam, you know, non-stick stuff, so you can pull it out. You can make these, and then I'll show you the double insulated pipe that I make. This works. This isn't really tall enough to put a real thin 6-inch stovepipe in. It wouldn't hold much. The wind would blow it over. But it holds my double insulated pipe that I made perfectly. These little caps you can make with oven pans, just pouring concrete. Okay, this is the biggest piece I made. You don't need something like this for a little backyard stove, but just to show you, it's a pipe inside of a pipe. So it's a 6-inch stovepipe, black stovepipe. Usually the 6-inch stovepipe comes in 2-foot sections, and now it's pretty expensive like everything else. And then you get on the outside 8-inch dryer vent. 8-inch dryer vent. Pipe inside of a pipe. Slide the bigger pipe over the stovepipe. Dryer vent, just galvanized. And then you stuff what's in between with you can stuff it with perlite, or if you could keep it from getting wet, mineral wool, non-flammable insulation. If it gets wet though, you're gonna have to stuff it with something like sand and perlite or vermiculite, but then it can get extremely heavy. You don't need something this long. You just need something, you know, maybe 2 or 3 feet above your riser, just to get that smoke above the people sitting on the bench, you know, just so no smoke goes in anybody's face. But I'm just showing, this is the biggest one I made, just to show you. And the dryer vent section of Lowe's and Home Depot sells a cap for the dryer vent. This is the cap that fits over top. Right, I screw it in here. And of course, you just would put your 6-inch stovepipe on top, circle around with a Sharpie marker, and then with snips you'd cut out the small hole in the cap and squeeze the 6-inch stovepipe through the cap, and then take the cap off, fill the area in between. I used mineral wool here, not perlite, because I was able to cover it up well enough where it's not going to get wet. But perlite's good to use because it doesn't absorb water anyway. If you stuff this with something that absorbs water, or you make one that's smaller, it'll become 100 pounds if it gets wet, which you don't want. Forgot the main reason I did this is for draft. Pipe inside of a pipe with insulation is ridiculous in terms of how it starts to draw and draft and suck. It gets hot, it stays hot. I probably should have just went and got this one and shown you this one, guys. This makes more. It's stovepipe inside 8-inch dryer vent. There's your cap, and then I just have a small lip. This is the stovepipe, this is the dryer vent, and you know, that cement thing that I lay on top of the cement thing that I lay on top of the fire brick. This just goes right in that cement circle, and because there's a lip, it holds perfectly. Even a 30-mile-an-hour wind wouldn't blow it over. This doesn't get real hot on the outside because it's insulated in the space between, so the galvanization doesn't get over, the zinc doesn't get over 700 degrees. And then if the zinc gets over 700 degrees, that galvanization starts to burn off and smoke. It's highly toxic, poisonous, and deadly. You have to be careful if you just use dryer vent. Burn it off the first time and stay away from it until the shine goes down to a dull gray. Then you know you've burned it off. Very dangerous.